I got home from a horrible night around 7 o'clock this morning, and I went on my spam page and I posted this caption that said something like, I feel like everybody's life is better without me in it, and I feel like my life sucks. And I participate in self-help courses and books to scapegoat the fact that my career isn't progressing. And I posted that, and then I went to sleep. And when I woke up, I thought about it, and I don't think that's what I truly believe, which led me to notice that I don't really feel inadequate or lesser than until I start comparing myself.
Hi, I'm Paul Sam.
All right, let's get back to Doechii here.
To not even compare myself to others. I start to feel inadequate when I feel like I'm not meeting the expectations of my audience. And when I say my audience, I don't limit that to just like the internet or people who follow me. I mean the audience that I think is watching me in the world, my family, my friends. When I feel like I'm not meeting the expectations that they have of me is when I start to feel inadequate. And I was thinking, like I said to myself while I was writing, I fear that I'm at a standstill because I don't see my projects moving in the way or the speed that I want them to. But then I had to think about that, and I was like, that's not true. I feel inadequate because I don't feel like my projects are moving fast enough for my audience. I don't have a problem with the speed of my growth. I don't have a problem with where I am, and I don't feel like I'm in a standstill, especially inward. And if I'm growing inward, I know that I'm growing outward. But again, I just notated that I start to feel inadequate or less than when I put my mind, when I start thinking about myself or viewing myself how I think other people are viewing me. And it led me to ask myself a couple of questions about who I am as an artist, what my expectations are, what my standards are, and what I really give a fuck about. Because the things that sometimes I get sad about or discouraged about, I don't think I really care about those things. I'm only trying to care about those things because I feel like my audience cares about those things or the world.
Okay, so this is Miss Doechii again. She's being completely honest. This video came out 4 years ago. She has 1.68 million subscribers. So, and this video got 6.3 thousand views. Her fame has been progressive, but as of late, it's really been moving at a good pace. So, like she dropped a couple videos recently, and they have like 500,000 views. But anyway, she's being honest here. She's being truthful. She's letting the guard down, and that's why I'm starting to really favor this particular artist. And another thing is, a lot of us old people or older people, we can learn a lot from younger people now. Doechii, she's just one of a few that I listen to that's in their 20s. You know what I mean? There's a guy by the name of what's his name? He's a British guy, dark skin. Man, what is his name? I can see his face. He wears a do-rag. He wears the lokes, and he stands in front of a white board, and he's telling you about life. And a lot of the things he's talking about are things that took me a while to realize. So I know he's right. His name is it'll come to me here in a second. It'll come to me while I'm reading. But anyways, I got to get to the story. You guys hold tight. I'll be back in a second. This is Miss Doechii too, and the name of this video is Core Values. What do you really give AF about. Anyways, check that out. I'll be back in a second. Nero Knowledge. Nero Knowledge. I was trying to figure out the young man's name. He's 23 years old, out of Great Britain. Nero Knowledge. That's Nero Knowledge. Y'all check him out. Alright, we're gonna get right into it, man. This is where we left off on Friday. Today is January 13th. Shout out to a special person. Birthday today. Anyways, let's get right into it. With those words, and after a sip from his canteen, little Jacob seemed to go into a state of deep thought. His attention went back to the dark water. The tiny sparkling crystals were still there, everywhere. Staring closer, his mind began a type of meditation. He became fixated on the water and the beauty of it all. The boy had put himself in a trance. He was wondering, what was it exactly that almost pulled Daddy into the pond? Is it still there, in the same spot? The yellow and orange float hadn't moved. It was probably the gator, the owner of the leathery eggs they'd seen near the path, or perhaps some type of aquatic monster that terrorized fishermen and 8 little boys who were too slow to run away. Watching the water was soothing to Jacob. His worries about not being serious enough in order for his father to break down and finally get him a puppy had drifted away. On a ripple, the pestering thoughts and worries had left his mind. And with a blink, those thoughts had somehow transformed themselves and were now in the form of him, little gazing Jacob sitting atop the float, a miniature Jacob sitting with his head down, chin resting on a fist. Thermos, no tea. Alright. Okay, so on a ripple, the pestering thoughts and worries had left his mind, and with a blink, those thoughts had somehow transformed themselves and were now in the form of him, little gazing Jacob. Miniature gazing Jacob. Miniature gazing Jacob, sitting atop the float. He looked down at the thermos. He looked now at the thermos he'd been drinking from. He looked down at the thermos he had been drinking from, and wondered about the substance he'd ingested. A miniature Jacob sitting with his head down. Putting his attention back on the miniature Jacob. Putting his attention back on the miniature Jacob, the real Jacob saw that the other him was sitting with his head down. Was sitting This is good stuff, y'all. This is good stuff. 2025 is gonna be a good year. Not only for me, but for you. Just stay tuned. I'm sending out blessings with each video. Well, not me. I can't send out blessings, but I'm asking God to send out blessings with each video. So watch me till the end. Watch us till the end. Be a part of this. That's all I'm saying. 2025. This is the year right here. I'm telling you. On a ripple, the pestering thoughts and worries had left his mind, and with a blank, those thoughts had somehow transformed themselves and were now in the form of him, miniature, gazing Jacob, sitting atop the float. He looked down at the thermos. He looked down at the thermos and wondered about the substance he'd ingested. Putting his attention back on the miniature Jacob, the real Jacob saw that the other him was sitting perfectly still atop the float with his head down, chin resting on a fist. The boy was feeling different. Maybe this Jacob's mind still raced with thoughts as he sat there. The boy was feeling different. Maybe this Jacob's mind still raced with thoughts. Maybe this Jacob's mind was now racing with thoughts. All right. Gazing, okay. On a ripple, the pestering thoughts and worries had left his mind. So now, in real time, as I speak to you, there's a symbiotic relationship going on with me and the music. The music is helping me out while I'm allowing it to broadcast come across in my office. And that's why I'm having thoughts. My imagination is activated. Watching the water was soothing to Jacob. His worries about not being serious enough in order for his father to break down and finally get him a puppy had drifted away. On a ripple, the pestering thoughts and worries had left his mind, and with a blink, those thoughts had somehow transformed themselves and were now in the form of him. On a ripple, the pestering thoughts and worries had left his mind, and with a blink those thoughts had somehow transformed themselves and were now in the form of him, materialized. Materialized, Jacob. Materialized. In the form of him, materialized. There was miniature fixated Jacob. Sitting atop the float, he looked down at the thermos. I don't want to get ahead of myself. I'm treading in dangerous waters right now. Not really dangerous, but Alright. The yellow and orange float hadn't moved. It was probably the gator, the owner of the leathery eggs they'd seen near the path, or perhaps some type of aquatic monster that terrorized fishermen and ate little boys who were too slow to run away. Watching the water was soothing to Jacob. His worries about not being serious enough in order for his father to break down and finally get him a puppy had drifted away. On a ripple, the pestering thoughts and worries Watching the water was soothing to Jacob. His worries about not being serious enough in order for his father to break down and, let's just say that, not being serious enough. Watching the water was soothing to Jacob. His worries about not being serious enough had drifted away. On a ripple, the pestering thoughts had left his mind, and with a blink, those thoughts had somehow transformed themselves and were now in the form of him, materialized. There was miniature, fixated Jacob sitting atop the float. The real Jacob looked down at the thermos and wondered about the substance he'd ingested. Putting his attention back on the miniature Jacob, the real Jacob saw that the other him was sitting perfectly still atop the float with his head down, chin resting on a fist. The boy was feeling different. Okay. Putting his attention back on the miniature Jacob, the real Jacob. The real Jacob. The real Jacob saw a second time that the other him was sitting perfectly still atop the float with his head down, chin resting on a fist. The boy was feeling different. Maybe this Jacob's mind was now racing with his thoughts. The real Jacob pondered. I think the story is starting to take on a life on its own, I mean, a good story is going to take off and it's going to go. And you just got to try to steer it anyways in the right direction. Right now, it seems like the story is like, this is what I want to do. So you just hold the steering wheel and just hold the steering wheel and hit the brakes when it gets a little bit too fast going around them curves, Downshift if you have to. When you go around them curves, hit the brakes, downshift if you have to. Take it back to third. Pop the clutch. Second. Come back up to third, fourth, fifth. Zoom, zoom. Y'all know how it is. Maybe this Jacob's mind was now racing with thoughts. The real Jacob pondered while watching the small version of himself sitting there, bobbing up and down, stranded in the middle of nowhere. In the physical, the boy's worries were fading away like the setting sun. He no longer worried about getting a puppy. There were no worries at all. Only a sudden thirst, a desperate thirst that overcame him. He took another sip of the mysterious substance. You guys are witnessing in real time this story pretty much. It's taking over me. You know what I mean? So now I'm like, okay, how did that happen? That thing that just happened, you know what I mean? And what that thing is all of a sudden, excuse me. Okay, let's go back up. Okay, all of a sudden, Jacob is realizing, okay, this is not what I thought it was, and because it's corn liquor, I gotta make sure that when he takes a sip, corn liquor, a little boy, 10-year-old boy, you ain't taking a sip of corn liquor. And not making a face or a sound or cough. Corn liquor that's ethanol, y'all. My first sip of corn liquor, I was about 19, I think 20, and shout out to my uncle. Took me to a location where an old guy in his 80s. He had been selling corn liquor for I don't even know how long. Probably, this was the 90s, so he's probably been selling corn liquor since like the 20s or the 30s. He was an old guy. And he had some of the best around. And my uncle was like, hey, go get you some corn liquor. And the guy knew my uncle's dad, so he was like, oh, you good. You know what I'm saying? I know your dad. Me and your dad used to go back, way back. So he came back with a mason jar. And he spun it around. And he said, you see them beads? See those beads? And I was looking at the little bubbles spinning around and the thing. And I was like, oh, cool, yeah, cool. I had already seen my pops, my other uncles, and family members drink the stuff. And it was like, the face that they made was like, okay, that's some pretty powerful stuff. As a little boy. But I always had a curious mind. So I was always curious about it. So at 1920, I got my first taste of corn liquor, and it tasted like gas. Yeah, it tasted like stuff you should be putting in a vehicle. But then over the years, I learned that you can put it in the freezer. It don't freeze now. It's not going to freeze. Put it in the freezer, and it's way more palatable. It's easier to drink when it's cold, really cold. But anyways, if Jacob, I gotta establish that if he's mixed up some corn liquor, it can't be a lot. Can't be a lot. It must be just a drop in his canteen mixed with some Kool-Aid or something. I gotta make that known early on in the story. So I'm gonna put that note in here right now. Even though it's not a lot, he's 10, so he's gonna taste this. Alright. So let me put that note in here right now. It's been 28 minutes, y'all. Where am I at? I gotta highlight this. Make that purple. And that's on page 25. So let's shoot back up to the top, the tip top. Go and search out thermos. Not thermist. Not thermost. We're gonna find thermist. Find next. And whenever you search, you gotta move that cursor to wherever you're trying to search from. Because if I were to hit search before doing that, it would take me to that purple section that I just highlighted, because that's where I left off. So let's hit find next, and then we'll take it. Plus my new thermos. Okay. Yep. So this is page 2. So I'm not even gonna waste time. Writing takes a while, y'all. It takes a while. It takes a lot of detail. Alright, so be sure to note Jacob's facial expression after taking a sip from his thermos. Alright. Now, let's go back to the purple section. I just downloaded, oh damn, they're not that far. I just downloaded. Oh, maybe it was that one. I just downloaded Raekwon's Purple Tape, Only Built for Cuban Links, part one, and the first one and the second one. I like the first one better. They make a big deal about the Purple Tape, but I like the first one better. All right, how far down am I, man? That's green. Let's go back to 35. That's green, so that's red. So maybe I did it not highlight? I don't think it highlighted. What's going on here now? What's going on, y'all? I done got turned around a little bit. Okay. As the two men started catching up. Yeah, I done got turned around, y'all. That's chapter 4. I don't even think I'm I have gotten there. Let me see. It had been something extra special about that day, the way the water shimmered. Okay, so I'm seeing I got all kind of section highlighted and stuff. All right, so this is where I left off. It needs to be black. Okay. The real Jacob looked down at the thermos and wondered about the substance he'd ingested. Putting his attention back on the miniature Jacob, the real Jacob saw a second time that the other him was sitting perfectly still atop the float with his head down, chin resting on a fist. The boy was feeling different. Maybe this Jacob's mind was now racing with thoughts. The real Jacob pondered. While watching the smaller version of himself sitting there, bobbing up and down, stranded in the middle of nowhere. See, I don't need to. Gotta trim the fat. Gotta trim the fat, man. And I can't stand. I've been for too long the writer who, has a little bit too much fat. I'll admit that. Maybe this Jacob's mind was now racing with thoughts, the real Jacob pondered. In the physical, the boy's worries were fading away like a setting sun. He no longer worried about getting a puppy. There were no worries at all, only a sudden thirst, a desperate thirst that overcame him. He took another sip of the mysterious substance. About the substance of the mysterious drink. He took another sip of the mysterious drink. So why is it mysterious? It's mysterious to Jacob too because he don't know what's in there. He just heard the adults talking about it, and he, being his being his mischievous self, his mischievous little self, decided to take a drink. Goodness gracious, come on now. He thinks his corn liquor. As a reflection of the sun, a fragmented image. As the reflection of the sun, a fragmented image of the huge fiery ball now danced on the dark waters and as trees began to sway in the distance from a breeze that seemed to come from nowhere, the boy did not see when his yellow and orange cork vanished. It was only when his rod leaped from his hands and on the grass that his attention, still free of worry, came rushing back. "Jake, you got something big," his father shouted. Quickly the boy left his bucket to chase the fleeing rod. "Hurry up before it goes in the water." Y'all gotta excuse my old man voice. All of a sudden Henry sounds like he's 87. All right. So this is where I stopped last time, okay? "Hurry up before it goes in the water." Without delay, he moved in an attempt to stop the darting rod, stamping down hard with one foot but missing. A second try did land on the handle, but the moving rod continued to slide, causing the boy to lose his balance. He fell to the ground, tumbling, then getting to his knees, bear crawling, like his life depended on it. Damn, y'all just don't know, man. If you all had an imagination like me, I don't know, some of you would be able to control it, but some of you wouldn't. Some of you would be in the insane asylum. But fortunately, I've had this imagination since birth. I didn't do well in school because of my imagination. I had this ability to go. First of all, I had, my childhood wasn't the best, but because my childhood wasn't the best and my imagination was so vivid, I would go sit in class and watch a movie in my head. That became routine. Watching movies, freestyling a movie, just freestyling the whole movie in my head for a whole period. I'm in the back of the class, So it's been years of harnessing that ability. Now, had the circumstances been different, I'm glad the circumstances weren't different, because now at this age, I realize that had I honed my skills for storytelling early on in life, I could have ended up like so many who end up linking with the wrong people. And I'm a black man, so black writers in Hollywood, I don't think they take them serious. I see that with Issa Rae. Issa Rae is one of the best to do it, but they don't take her serious. You know what I mean? So I'm glad now. I'm almost 50. God willing, I'll be 50 in a couple years. And I'm at a point now where I'm gaining my own control again. And I'm losing responsibility. So I see great things in my near future. Y'all hold tight, buckle up. I see great things for my near future. I care less about who's looking at what I'm doing right now. I care less, because history has shown me that nobody cares if they think you're at a certain spot. But when they see you emerge as a giant, or as somebody being progressive, if they can actually see you being progressive, all of a sudden people show up in your life. Same people who wasn't there. You know what I mean? So I the ripples and the hills and the valleys, I've been, time shows you a lot. Time shows you a lot. When people think you are doing something and you're going somewhere, all of a sudden, zoop, they're back on you. But you always got to keep in mind, okay, this person, when I had $3 in the bank, was right there by my side. Or when I couldn't sell one book, this person was right here by my side. Those are the people that are still going to be by your side, thick and thin. Thick and thin. I hate to even talk like that, man. I really do. Because I realize people just got their own stuff going on. Anyways, without delay, he moved in an attempt to stop the darting rod, stamping down hard with one foot, but missing. A second try did land on the handle, but the moving rod continued to slide, causing the boy to lose his balance. He fell to the ground, tumbling, then getting to his knees, bear crawling, like his life depended on it. He managed bear crawling. Tumbling, then getting to his knees. Tumbling, then getting to his knees before bear crawling. Before bear crawling, like his life depended on it, he managed to lean forward in time to grab it. Hold on, son, I'm coming. That's some old man, I don't know who that is. His father said before dropping his own rod. I got it, Daddy, Jacob hollered proudly. Hurrying on the scene, Henry dropped to one knee. With his arms wrapped firmly around his son, lumberjack hands engulfing Jacob's, the two of them held on tightly to the rod. In the distance, the proud father saw that less than 50 feet away, let's say 50 yards, because 50 feet, yeah, 50 feet is good, right? Yeah. I'm looking like, how far is 50 feet? From here, from where I'm sitting at to, like, where my pool stick is at. Y'all can't see it, but I got a pool stick over there in the corner. I only played with it for about maybe 10 times and maybe won 3 games with it, but that's another story. It's not broken in yet. That's about 20 feet. So yeah, 50 feet is good. Is it 20 feet? About 15. Yeah, 50 feet is good, yeah. In the distance, the proud father saw that less than 50 feet away and in the exact location the bait had been taken, what looked like 2 widely spaced eyes appear in the shimmering dark water. For only a moment, but what felt to be an eternity, everything seemed to have stopped. As they began reeling, Henry realized the fishing line was beyond its max holding capacity. Suddenly, the creature began to spin furiously. Water started splashing everywhere. It's her, said Henry. It's gotta be the gator. Giving a little slack on the line, the two watched hopelessly as the inevitable happened. The line snapped. With a sudden break, the bow and the pole sprung back instantly, launching the remaining line from the water. Hook, line, and sinker were all still with whatever had taken the bait. Breathing heavy and laughing after being hit with a few droplets of pond water, the two stood there staring at the calming water and the lost cause. As the day went on, young Jacob was showing much maturity. There was no more playing around, even though he ached to tell his father about what he thought it was that had snapped the 2 lines. Despite this longing to be his normal self after the missed catch, while remembering his promise of good behavior, and after reattaching new tackle to his rod, he'd gone back to staring at the water. The boy found himself back out there atop the bobbing float. Okay. Okay. Totally bored now that all of the excitement had left. The very vivid imagination that some little boys possess, Jacob's little buddy, his subconscious mind, no wild stories about underwater creatures, no yearning to have a dog. Just his mind was resting at peace, content with just being there. Back on the cork, bobbing up and down as the day drifted away. Not long after the second gator episode, or whatever it had been, Henry Wallace managed to catch his first fish, a small brim, throwing it back seconds later. Jacob caught something similar. It was a slightly larger red breast. Oh my goodness.
YouTube has its own YouTube channel?
Okay. As time moved on, and as thick white clouds moved in and out, the two went on to catch fish after fish. With no one else there sharing the pond, it quickly grew into a friendly competition between father and son. Okay, so, that was a little bit rough, but that's okay. We made it. So I'm making this green now. Man, it's been 47 minutes. I'm getting kind of I'm starting to feel it again, y'all. That's a good thing. That's really good. I'm starting to feel it again. And what I mean by that is the story is taking me over, and that's good. Let me see. Oh man, I gotta read a little bit more. It had been something extra special about the day, the way the water shimmered, how the sun shined, how beams of light penetrated through some of the clouds while warming bare skin. Unlike his father, Jacob hadn't worn a hat to protect his head and face. The sun was draining the boy of his rambunctiousness, thereby aiding in the calming effect. As the day had gone by, and as he'd been superbly focused on behaving, something special happened. Maybe it had been the particular location and the time of the year that had opened a portal to some other place. And yes, it might have been how deep the little boy had gone into meditation, a thing he'd never done before, but did so effortlessly that day. It was more than that, much more, a combination of things. As the great Albert Einstein once said, logic will get you from A to B, imagination will take you everywhere. Ultimately, father and son ended the day with the catch of 7 fish, 2 sandwich-sized brim of 5, and 5 slightly larger than sandwich size. If I can't see, that's why I'm taking my time. Yeah, I mean, my office is completely dark. Y'all see, the only light I'm getting in right now is a light behind me, and I have a, right here I have a, what do you call those, white light, the circle, ring, I don't know, the ring thing. Anyways, I can't see anything else. So when I type, I'm typing off of, the little bit of typing skills I got. Anyways, and 5 slightly larger than sandwich-sized red breasts. As dusk sat in and bait ran low, Henry was noticing his son's peace. After Jacob promised to be on his best behavior in hopes of receiving a puppy, and the 2 bouts with the alligator, or whatever it had been, the day continued on perfectly. Okay, son, said Henry as he got up from the bucket. It's time to go to this party. Can I help? Can I help clean the fish? Asked Jacob. Henry paused in awe. I see. So you really are serious about this puppy thing? Huh? I just want to do my part, that's all, Jacob insisted. Sure, if you want to... Sure, if you want to help clean fish, I'm not going to stop you. I guess it's a first for everything. Gathering the gear while the tired sun descended from the sky, the two anglers used what little light they had to guide them on the path. Dang, they've been out there all day? That's a long time. That's a long time to be fishing, y'all. From sun up to sundown, that's a long time to be fishing. That's something I got to think about. I hope you all are getting a feel of what writing really is right now. But I think writing this way is this is like the early stages. Anyways, I'm gonna go ahead and make this red. I know we didn't move down that far, but I think it's good enough. We'll stop right here. This has been 52 minutes. Anyways, y'all hit that like, leave a comment, share this video. Till next time, this is Anthony L. Kelly. I'm out. Right this way.